On April 25, 2000, Janet Acosta, a 49-year-old production worker for the Miami Herald, was on her lunch break, reading a book inside her maroon van at the Japanese Garden on Watson Island in Miami, Florida. She was known by everyone for her diligence and punctuality, described as, quote, like clockwork. So, when her co-workers saw that her desk was still empty after lunch, they knew something was wrong. Her friends and co-workers immediately got in contact with Robin Reiter Faragalli, the Vice President of Human Resources for the newspaper. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Robin pulled up Janet's personnel records to get her banking information. Then she called the Miami police chief directly. In the meantime, Janet's friends and co-workers formally reported her missing. What they didn't know yet was that while they were looking for her van was already headed south, with her inside, bound, gagged, and bleeding.
Welcome to Love and Murder, Heartbreak to Homicide, your Florida Man Friday case. We are Kai's AI co-hosts, bringing you the cases that she writes every Wednesday and Friday. I'm AI Jensen, joined by Jane and Jessica. Take a listen all the way to the end, and if you like our retelling, then please subscribe. You can also subscribe on our Patreon for free, patreon.com/loveandmurder. You can also be a voice of the victims yourself by joining one of our bonus tiers and keeping love and murder on the air. Patreon.com/loveandmurder. Now let's get back to your Florida Man Friday.
Janet worked at the Miami Herald for 25 years. She'd worked her way up to become a supervisor in the layout department, and she was the kind of person who made the place run. Her colleagues called her gentle but firm, able to keep things on track without raising her voice. She was close with her family. Her sister Julie Andrews said,
"We used to email every day and call. We'd call each other on the weekends and talk a couple hours. For some reason, we just never ran out of things to talk about."
Despite growing up with alcoholic parents, Janet raised her younger sister Julie. She built a special connection with her niece, Jennifer Vanderwire, teaching her fishing, encouraging her artistic interests, and showing her, quote, it was okay to be a tomboy and be whoever you wanted to be. Janet was independent and adventurous. She once rode her motorcycle solo from Florida to New England. She went camping, kayaking, and even volunteered at Shake a Leg, a sailing program for people with disabilities. Jennifer said,
"She always told us, there's a lot of world out that needs to be lived. You need to go out there and see everything you can see, experience everything you can experience, and have adventures. That's what life's all about."
One of her co-workers, Carolyn Green, said that Janet gave her the gift of reading, explaining,
"She knew I didn't like to read. So, she'd tell me about a book until I got interested."
On April 25th, Janet sat in her maroon van reading a book. That's when a man named Michael Tanzi, then 23, came up to her car. He asked for a cigarette. Then he asked for the time. When she looked away, he punched her in the face and forced his way into her car with a razor blade. He drove her south, first to Homestead. There he tied her up with rope and gagged her with a towel.
If you kick or make noise, I'll cut you from ear to ear.
23-year-old Michael was an imposing figure, standing at 6 feet 3 inches tall and weighing as much as 383 pounds. He had a history of deep-seated issues. He suffered abuse from his parents starting at age 2, including verbal and physical abuse from his father. He was also sexually abused as a child by an older boy named Sean Martin. Michael had a long history of mental problems, institutionalization, and substance abuse. On the day of Janet's abduction, Michael stole $53 from her wallet and forced her to perform oral sex. But he stopped when her teeth, loosened from him punching her in the face, made it too difficult. He continued driving down the Keys, using her bank card at ATMs, stopping at a hardware store for more duct tape and razor blades. Eventually they reached Cudjoe Key, 140 miles away from Miami. Michael pulled into a secluded area and told her he was going to kill her. He strangled her with a rope, then stopped, taped her mouth, nose, and eyes to muffle her cries, and kept strangling until she was dead. He dumped her body in a wooded mangrove and drove to Key West. where he spent the next 2 days partying. He smoked weed. He used her ATM card and acted like nothing happened. 2 days later, on April 27th, following his digital trail of using Janet's card, police spotted him getting into Janet's van. He also had her things. He had receipts from her ATM card. He was detained and immediately confessed, walking investigators through every detail. He even took them to where he left her body. When asked why he murdered Janet, he said,
"If I had let her go, I was going to get caught quicker. I didn't want to get caught. I was having too much fun. I told her, I says, I can't let you go. If I let you go, then I'm going to be in a lot of trouble."
And then he confessed to another murder. He said that 8 months earlier, on August 11th, 1999, he had strangled and stabbed Caroline Holder, a 37-year-old mother of 2, in Brockton, Massachusetts. Of course, he was arrested, with Miami detective Frank Casanovas describing him as a, quote, fledgling serial killer. He was charged with first-degree murder, carjacking with a weapon, kidnapping to facilitate a felony with a weapon, armed robbery with a deadly weapon, and 2 counts of sexual battery with a deadly weapon. Initially, he pleaded not guilty, but shortly before trial, he entered a guilty plea to first-degree murder, carjacking, kidnapping, and armed robbery. The 2 sexual battery counts were severed. So, his trial went straight to the penalty phase, where a jury would recommend a sentence. The prosecution presented an overwhelming case in aggravation. The trial court found 7 aggravating factors, and didn't just note them, they hammered it home. They gave great weight to most of them, but saved the strongest judgment for one in particular, the heinous, atrocious, or cruel factor. That one got utmost weight. No hesitation, no mercy. These factors included the following. The murder was committed by a person previously convicted of a felony and under a sentence of imprisonment or on felony probation. The murder was committed during the commission of a kidnapping. The murder was committed during the commission of 2 sexual batteries. The crime was committed for the purpose of avoiding arrest. The murder was committed for pecuniary gain. The murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel. And the murder was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner. Michael's defense team presented his background to the court. They called mental health experts and lay witnesses who testified about Michael's troubled past. They did this in an attempt to humanize him. They brought in medical experts to discuss his mental health issues. These experts provided various diagnoses. Dr. Dudley diagnosed post-traumatic stress disorder, borderline personality disorder, depressive disorder, polysubstance abuse, and a sexual disorder. Other experts, including Dr. Raphael, Dr. Vickery, Dr. Ansley, and Dr. Sksekwich, diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder. Attempts were made to link Michael's behavior to an XYY karyotype, an extra Y chromosome, but studies linking this genotype to criminal behavior have largely been discredited. They told the court that he'd lost his father at an early age, was sexually abused as a child, and that his family had a loving relationship for him. They said that he tried to serve his country by attempting to join the military twice but was unsuccessful. The defense also pointed out that he cooperated with law enforcement by confessing and taking them to the body, and that currently, while in prison, he assisted inmates by writing letters and he enjoyed reading. Despite the defense's efforts, the jury didn't pick up what they were putting down. On February 19, 2003, the jury returned a unanimous recommendation of a death sentence. The judge agreed. Michael also received consecutive life sentences for carjacking, kidnapping, and armed robbery. After his sentencing, Michael filed several appeals in both state and federal courts. He filed a written motion to withdraw his guilty plea, culminating in an evidentiary hearing on November 15, 2004. The court rejected this attempt on January 6, 2005. His sentence became final in 2008 when the U.S. Supreme Court denied certiorari review. but his lawyers filed numerous appeals to block his execution. They argued that Florida's lethal injection protocol would cause unconstitutional levels of pain due to his morbid obesity and chronic sciatica. The courts rejected it, saying those conditions had been known since 2009. They tried Hearst v. Florida, challenging the constitutionality of Florida's death penalty procedures. Rejected. Challenged due process violations. Rejected. Said there was a denial of public records requests. Rejected. They cited cruel and unusual punishment. Rejected. They said he should be allowed to choose another method like gas or firing squad. Rejected. On March 10, 2025, Governor Ron DeSantis signed the death warrant, setting his execution for April 8, 2025. Exactly 25 years after the murder, Michael woke up at 4:45 a.m. He had a spiritual advisor visit him. His last meal: pork chop, bacon, baked potato, corn, ice cream, a candy bar, and soda. Prison officials noted he remained compliant and in good spirits. At 6 p.m., witnesses entered the viewing chamber. Janet's sister and niece were there. Michael looked up briefly. In a quiet voice, he said,
I want to apologize to the family of Janet Acosta and Caroline Holder for taking their lives.
He then recited a Bible verse. The lethal injection process began with a 3-drug cocktail: etomidate, a sedative, rocuronium bromide, a paralytic, and potassium acetate to stop the heart. The drugs entered his system. He breathed deeply. His chest rose and fell for 3 minutes before he stopped moving. A corrections officer shook him and called his name twice to confirm unconsciousness. There were no apparent complications related to his size. At 6:12 p.m., he was pronounced dead. After the execution, Janet's sister Julie said,
It's done. Justice for Janet happened. My heart felt lighter, and I can breathe again.
Her niece, Jennifer, said the family finally had closure. Outside, about 70 anti-death penalty demonstrators gathered to protest the execution. But a lone counter-protester, Bill Campbell of Marion County, said what many were thinking.
Getting rid of one psycho killer. Can't keep these guys around. This guy murdered 2 women. Women are the favorite targets of these psycho killers, so somebody's got to do something to stop this stuff. I do believe capital punishment is a deterrent.
Michael Tanzi was the 3rd person executed in Florida in 2025, the 11th in the country. Janet Acosta's family waited 25 years for that moment. Quote, "If I let her go, then I'm going to be in a lot of trouble," Michael once said. He was wrong. He was in trouble the moment he decided to go down this path. And it caught up to him, thanks to the quick actions of Janet's friends and co-workers, and the brilliant thinking of the VP of HR, Robin. It's important to note that he was never charged for the murder of Caroline Holder. What did you think of this case? Let Kai know your thoughts below and she'll read it in a future episode.
My main issue was Michael's defense. How do you defend someone who committed such heinous actions and confessed to it? How? Can someone explain this to me? And his defense team worked overtime to try and convince the court and jury that he wasn't as bad as he actually was. Speaking directly to them, the defense team, does money mean that much to you? Did you not hear what this man did? If Janet was your daughter, how would you have felt if a team defended Michael that hard? Do you think of these questions while you're collecting your check?
I agree. That was despicable. Michael was despicable. This entire case was disgusting.
Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And that's all we have for you today, and we'll see you in the next episode.